So I'm now 2 days back into being well enough to keep working. I have got I've got the apron finished as much as I can get it finished. So I made the bib yesterday. So I'd had it cut out for a while. I'd just been dragging my feet over getting the lace gathered and sewn on, and I managed to finish that. So I did it with I used the 2 layers. I doubled up the cotton again, and tacked everything together using the tailor tack things. And then I'd been trying to gather the lace using the ruffler foot on my singer at home, using the hand crank. I figured that using a ruffler foot would be quicker, and it really wasn't. I think one of the gears is a little bit out, so the first time I'd gathered everything on the higher setting, it was too full, and then there's only 2 settings, so one's a gather every stitch, and the other one is a gather every 5 stitches. The one with a gather every 5 stitches worked better, but I had to run it through twice, and that just took time, and then it started skipping, and it was just a bit of a pain. So I just went back to using the sort of zigzag over a thick thread method, and that's worked a lot quicker. It's been a bit easier to manage. There were a couple of places where the lace got caught up despite my best efforts, but I've fixed those by hand. I've just unpicked it and pulled the lace out and then re-stitched it up. So you can't really tell, which is the point. So the apron bib, I just drafted out a rough teardrop shape, and then went from there. I just eyeballed it. I didn't do any I didn't see the need to measure anything. I just laid it out on the skirt and went from there, and it's come out really, really nicely. So I had that cut out and pressed. I had a few issues with the fabric. I think there were a couple of flaws in the fabric. So one of the sides had a place where the threads had not so much pulled, but they were really thick threads caught up in the fabric that I couldn't pull out. So that went on I was going to put that on the underside, on the inside, but then I found out that the piece I was going to have as the front piece had one big line going through the middle of it, so I didn't want to use that as the front piece either. So I've compromised, and I've got a nice smooth bit as the front piece now, and a piece that isn't too creased, because I've been finding with this cotton that once it's creased, it's set. So there are a couple of places where I can't actually press the creases out, and I don't know if that's just because it's now just in the fabric, or if it's I'm not pressing it hard enough. But the steam wasn't it wasn't helping it any, so I've just tried to piece it as best I can. The pockets I could make from scraps. They were quite sweet and simple. I got those done this morning. I basically used a double piece of cotton for the front bit, so it's got the nice stiff, but then I've bagged it out on itself using one layer of cotton, and that's done nice. It's not made it too thick, which is what I was worried about. The lace I've hand stitched on in roughly the right area, and then the first time I did this top stitching, I did some top stitching across the edge with the embroidery thread. I had that. I'd already bagged it out when I did that, and I wanted to have the ends of the threads internal, so they'd be a bit more secure. So I had to do that through the hole I'd bagged it out through, and it was a bit of a pain. So the next one I did, I stitched it before I bagged it out, and it worked a lot better. I also had to use glue to stop the ends from unraveling, because I left my freight check at home, but it's fine. So I then I didn't really measure where the pockets went either, which I maybe should have done, but it seems to look okay. It looks fairly even. So they're just plonked on there, and then I sewed them on. That was just top stitch around the edge. It wasn't as neat as I'd hoped it would be, but it's holding it on, so I'm not gonna spend ages trying to get it right. And also the needles it leaves holes in the cotton, so it's it would be obvious if I was like trying to like unpick it and redo it all the time. So I'm just kind of gonna leave it at that. I did decide to go over it with the embroidery thread as well, with like the heavy stitching, just because I figured that like if this was like for a doll, there would be stitching to like stitch the pockets on. It's not just like sort of you slapped it on and then that's it. So this would be like the most obvious point to put the like heavy stitches on. But yeah, so they're both on and they're nice and they're flat. Everything looks nice. I've bagged out I've like sewn the lace on, I've bagged it all out. And I'm really pleased with it. The next question now is to how I'm going to attach everything. So originally I was going to sew the apron bib front I was going to attach that to the skirt, and then the bodice would have the top of the like apron bib and the waistband go over the top. But I have reconsidered because I want the apron to line up from the bodice part and the bib part. And I think it would be easier to do that more consistently if it's all sewn to the waistband, rather than trying to like line up the skirt and then it sort of goes a bit wonky. So just for like ease of wear, I'm going to sew it all to the waistband, which also means that it will be a nice, I can like finish it off nicely inside as well, which should be good. My next issue as well is also like where the waistband went on the bodice. So I was looking back at my fitting photos and I didn't really pay much attention to the waistband, which I kind of wish I had now. It was just sort of like slapped over the top and it looked okay. Obviously now it's going to be more fixed, so I don't want it to like look odd. So I need to like make sure it's at the right level and the bib is not like too low for the skirt and everything else. So what I might do is I might tack together the apron, the bib and the bodice section at the front waist, and then maybe I could do like a second fitting this weekend and just sort of like put everything on my model and then tack it all down, like herringbone stitch it all together that way, which might be a bit of a better way of doing it, so that I know that it's definitely going to look right, because I mean everything can be moved around. It's not like it's going to be set in stone. I've designed it specifically so that it can be like chopped and changed and the length's altered and everything, so I'm not so much worried about that. In terms of the waistband itself, I think what I'm going to do is I still want to have it pleated. I really like the pleated look. And I think I'm still going to have it with the satin because the cotton is quite difficult to like press flat. And with the waistband, I want it to look like, I just want it to have a bit of contrast to the apron, and to match the collar as well. So I'm going to do that. But what I've done is I have cut out a width of cotton in the sort of finished width of the waistband, and I'm going to use that as like a lining, air quotation marks. So firstly it'll give me an idea of like how wide I want the waistband to be, so I've got like a base to refer back to, and also it means that I can, once everything is like I'm happy with the placement of everything, I can sew it inside the waistband and finish off the inside quite nicely, because then I can enclose the ends of like the hem of the bodice as well. So it means that everything is all nice and enclosed. I don't have to worry about cutting off seam allowances to reduce bulk or anything, because it's all just going to be flat and it's still easy to get to alter it later. So yeah, I haven't got around to doing the waistband for the skirt yet. I think what I want to do is I want to find some hooks and bars or snap fasteners or something to make sure that I've got everything like laying flat as I want it, and then I can figure out how to make that all nice and neat. I still have yet to do the sleeves. What I might do is I might do those tomorrow. I can get a sleeve block from the studio, and I can just sort of whip up some puffy sleeves, and then I can figure out how I want to do the internals on that later. Well, not later, but just like, you know, I'm gonna have to work everything out all at once most likely, so but yeah, I think it's all coming together a bit better now.